Hey guys, this is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and you're about to see the debut of my first vlog. I just recorded this intro to give you a couple notes. I decided to keep this vlog as is, unedited, with my little blunders and interruptions and all, because I wanted to use this as a teaching tool as well, so I can see what I did wrong and keep going, learning to improve myself. That's all I have to say. Without further ado, enjoy the vlog. Hello everyone, and welcome to my series, The Sentinel's Vlogs. This is a new series that I hope to continue for a very long time as I cover a wide array of subjects, mostly related to entertainment, movies, film, TV. So, for my debut vlog, what am I going to be talking about? Well, I'll give you a hint. Figure it out yet? Yes, I'm going to be talking about Doctor Who in this monumental year that the series is going to be having. At the end of the Christmas special, we will be saying goodbye to Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. Is it Capaldi or Capaldi? I'm just going to say Capaldi, and you guys can correct me if you want. And then we'll be seeing Jodie Whittaker introduced as the 13th Doctor. This is something that's really exciting after all the build-up and the build-up and the talking about it. We're finally going to get a woman doctor. To everyone who is unsure about this choice or against it, I say reserve yourself. Wait. You know, personally, I think there's never been a bad actor to play the Doctor, so I'm waiting to see Whittaker in action before I make any calls. So instead, for my first vlog, I'm going to be talking about something completely different. Two things, actually. First, I'll be talking about how I got into Doctor Who. And second, well, I'll tell you when we get there. So, and the reason I'm doing two different stories in this vlog is because how I got into Doctor Who is actually a very short story. It all began back in high school. And to set the stage, set the clock back, I graduated in 2012. I was really big into sci-fi ever since I was little. Star Wars, I recently started watching Star Trek, Alien, Paul is one of my favorite comedies. Just I've liked sci-fi for a long time. And I had a couple friends in drama because I love drama. That was my favorite subject. And they said, "Oh, you're a big fan of sci-fi. You should watch Doctor Who. It's something you'll really like." At that point in time, I didn't know what Doctor Who was. I'd heard of it, but I didn't know that much about it. So I went home, did some searching, read up on what the show was, saw where it was at that time, and I said, okay, we're so far into Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor, that I'm going to wait. I'll come back in on the next regeneration when the show resets itself. Man, that was the end of it. I went through high school like normal, and a few years later, they announced during Doctor Who's 50th anniversary that Matt Smith was leaving the show. So I thought, okay, this is a great time to start getting into it. As you can guess from my story, my first Doctor, because you never forget your first, was the 12th Doctor. And to this day, he is one of my favorites. And P.S. At the time this was going on, I didn't have Netflix or Amazon or On Demand or any kind of streaming, so I couldn't go back from the beginning and start through the series. Now, however, I do have access to those platforms, so I have been going through and catching up on the rest of the series. See, like I said, short story. Now that brings us to part 2 of this vlog. Like me, once you start the new series and watch it for a little bit, you get interested in the classic series, but you go, where do I begin? And some people will watch the classic series from the beginning. I don't recommend that. The classic series is 20 years long, and a lot of the early stuff is missing or lost. So for someone who's like me, who's a completionist, I don't recommend that. However, the classic series aired in serials. So you can check out specific stories once you know the sort of formula of Doctor Who, like who's the Doctor, what's the TARDIS, who are the companions. Once you get the basics of the series down, you can really reach anywhere in the classic series, pick a story, and go. Now, a lot of people who recommend the classic series recommend usually the same episodes over and over. The War Games, Genesis of the Daleks, Inferno. There's a lot. However, what I'm going to recommend is probably the fastest way to get into the classic series, and from there, you can go on and... let me rephrase that. I would recommend using this as your starting point to get into the classic series. P.S. This is my personal opinion, my personal recommendation. Everyone has their own opinions. Feel free to disagree. That's the great thing about an opinion. There's no right or wrong one. So, new series fan getting into the classic series, what I recommend is The Doctors Revisited. Now, The Doctors Revisited was one of the many specials done for Doctor Who's 50th anniversary. There was the actual Doctor Who story, The Day of the Doctor. Almost got confused there and said Time of the Doctor. Different story. There was the biopic about Doctor Who's beginnings and adventure in space and time, which 100% recommend. Go see that movie. It is great. There was the comedy spoof, the Five-ish Doctors reboot, which I haven't seen yet. And then there was Big Finish's 50th anniversary story, The Light at the End. The Doctors Revisited was an 11-part series covering each of the Doctors. At the time of the 50th anniversary, Matt Smith announced he was leaving, but he was still playing the role. He hadn't left yet. And each documentary is only 30 minutes long and covers sort of who that doctor was, what that actor brought to the table in their performance, who the companions were, and some of the iconic foes that doctor introduced and later doctors reintroduced into the series. Along with this documentary, there was an episode, a story selected for each doctor, supposed to be their iconic serial. I'll get to that in a minute. And it clocks in at about an hour and a half long, sort of a mini movie. And yeah, it's a great jumping off point for the classic series because it gives you all the information you need about the Doctor and a story that kind of gives you an idea of what that Doctor is about. So for this, I'm going to talk about each of the serials they come with and give a little bit of a review. I will not be covering Part 3, Volume 3, because that's the 9th, 10th, and 11th Doctors, who are all new series. So we'll start off with Volume 1, the first 4 Doctors, William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, and Tom Baker. The story that comes with William Hartnell, the first Doctor, is the Aztecs. Now, I'm not a fan of the first Doctor. I don't hate him. I want to be clear on that. I like every actor who's played the Doctor. Some a little bit more than others, but I've never hated an actor as the Doctor, and I've loved all the Doctors to varying degrees. That being said, the first Doctor is at the bottom of the list for various reasons. I'm not going to get that here. I am planning to do a vlog on all the regenerations of the Doctor, ranking them from my favorite to my least favorite, and I'll talk about that there. That being said, the Aztecs is a good story. It's kind of slow, but not too bad. But Hartnell gives a good performance, you know. The basis of the Aztecs is that Barbara, one of the first Doctor's companions, is mistaken for a reincarnated goddess. Barbara knows the Aztec society will be ransacked and destroyed when Cortez arrives. So, using her knowledge of history, she tries to change the Aztec religion. She tries to undo the the act of human sacrifice, hoping that if she can get rid of the bad, she can preserve the good. One of the interesting things about this series is long before it was ever given a name, is that the Aztecs gave the Aztecs was essentially the debut of the plot point of fixed points in time, which is something Doctor Who would continue to visit on and deal with. This idea that there are moments in time, specific points that no matter what happens, cannot be altered. The villain is also really good because if you think about it, he's not really a villain. He just sees Barbara as this woman trying to dismantle their way of life, and he's trying to, versus him, trying to preserve it. The second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, has the Tomb of the Cybermen. For anyone who's a fan of Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, I really recommend Patrick Troughton. Patrick Troughton is Matt Smith's 11th. Oh, wow. Sorry, took a little break because of my speech blunder there. Anyway, as I was saying, Patrick Troughton is Matt Smith's favorite Doctor. In fact, Patrick Troughton is called the Doctor's Doctor because a lot of the actors who've played the Doctor cite Patrick Troughton as their favorite. Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, even Matt Smith. And The Tomb of the Cybermen is Matt Smith's favorite story. This one is a really good cat and mouse game. You have the Doctor trying to stop the Cybermen from awakening again, versus these people who want to try and use the Cybermen to usurp the human race. Long story. My only complaint really is the Tomb of the Cybermen incarnation of the Cybermen are not my favorite. I mean, yes, the classic Cybermen costumes have always looked varying degrees of fake and corny, but in this one, I would say they are the worst Cybermen costumes. Like the 10th Planet, you can understand, especially if you've listened to Spare Parts, where those Cybermen came from. And I'll get more on the Cybermen, don't worry. But bottom line, Tomb of the Cybermen, good story, check it out. Now, we're on to the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee. And of the classic series, Jon Pertwee is my favorite Doctor. On the Doctors Revisited, the third Doctor comes with Spearhead from Space, which is his debut story. And there's a lot of good things, don't get me wrong, but Spearhead from Space is not my favorite. It's really slow. It takes a while to get to the climax. And for a third Doctor story, the third Doctor doesn't do that much. I mean, he's down for the count in the first third. And don't get me wrong, when he does take action, it's really good. But it just takes a while to get there. Don't get me wrong, Spearhead from Space has some good moments, like, even though she's not one of my favorite companions, Elizabeth Shaw is great. You have the Brigadier, you have the introductions of the Autons, which is a phenomenal monster, and the design is just, ugh. But ultimately, if you like Third Doctor, or if you're interested, I check it out, but I wouldn't recommend Spearhead from Space. And that brings us to the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker. And many people consider Tom Baker the most iconic Doctor of the series. He's everyone's favorite. He's played the role on TV the longest. His run lasted for 7 years. And the fourth Doctor comes with Pyramids of Mars. Now, as I said earlier, the Doctors Revisited comes with what is supposedly each Doctor's iconic story. And this is where I have issues, because anyone who knows Doctor Who knows the Fourth Doctor, would say the iconic Fourth Doctor story, one of the most iconic Doctor Who stories of all time, is Genesis of the Daleks. Not to say Pyramid of Mars isn't bad; it's a good story, but I'm done disputing this. That's my dispute with that. Anyway, Pyramids of Mars. The Doctor and his companion, Sarah Jane, find themselves going back in time to back from another speech blunder. Sorry, this is my first vlog. I'm working on it. Anyway, as I was saying, Pyramids of Mars, the Doctor and Sarah Jane go back in time to find an archaeologist who has unearthed an ancient evil from space in Egypt, which gives you an interesting idea. It says the mythology of the ancient Egyptians, Ra, Anubis, all them. This story plays with the idea that those gods are actually aliens, and this archaeologist has unearthed one of them, Sutek. Sutek is a great villain, and you get this sense of how powerless the Doctor is. He's dealing with a force beyond his comprehension. Pyramids of Mars is a lot of fun, kind of slow to start, but then once it picks up, it really gets going, and it's a lot of fun. I have said that a lot, and I'm going to try to work on that. But that concludes Volume 1, and it brings us to Volume 2, which includes the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Doctors, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, and Paul McGann. With the 5th Doctor, Peter Davison, you get Earthshock. And wow. Many fans of the 5th Doctor consider this one of his best stories, along with the Caves of Androzani. And Earthshock stands out because it deals with a companion exit that hasn't been done before or since. I mean, unless you count Angels Take Manhattan, but again, neither here nor there. The Earthshock Cybermen are also my favorite incarnation of the Cybermen. Just that deep, powerful voice they come across is really menacing. The costumes are the best I've seen on the Cybermen until we get to the new series. The plot's a little iffy, like it doesn't make sense, but that's really a very minor thing compared to all the greats this series offers. Which brings us to the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker. Now, in my opinion, Colin Baker is the most underrated of the Doctors. Many fans of the classic series know Colin Baker had a very, very turbulent run on television. A lot of people did not like many of his serials. Several fans consider the Twin Dilemma the worst Doctor Who story of all time. And he had a lot of problems. But I've been watching a lot of the 6th Doctor stuff recently, and despite all that, despite the writing and the plots and the execution, Colin Baker himself never does a bad job. He's an amazing Doctor. He's just stuck with bad material, and it's really a shame. Just especially if you listen to Big Finish and see what Colin Baker can do with good material. But I really do like the 6th Doctor. He's one of my top 3 favorites. Included with the Doctors Revisited is what many fans would agree would be Colin Baker's best story, Vengeance on Varos. It's got this great premise about a planet that watches TV. Wow, that was terrible. They watch executions like a sport. I honestly think Vengeance on Varos is more relevant today with its commentary on TV and society than it was back when it aired. You've also got Syl, who's a great villain, and all through it, Baker shines as the Doctor. And after that, we have Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor. Now, after the downswing of the 6th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy returned Doctor Who to form. Ratings improved. People started thinking Doctor Who was going to be good before it was ultimately canceled. The 7th Doctor is another really good Doctor. Like, how to phrase it? When they started the 6th Doctor, they wanted him to be darker, edgier, grittier. The 7th Doctor is that concept fully realized. when you see him at first, he's fun-loving, he's very likable, very clown-like, but then the layers peel back and you see how dark and manipulative he is. And what story do we get with the Seventh Doctor? We get his best, Remembrance of the Daleks. And there's just the Seventh Doctor and his companion Ace go back in time to the 1960s, when Doctor Who first began. And the Seventh Doctor finds himself finishing unfinished business. That's all I'm going to say, because there's a lot that happens that I don't want to give away, even though the story is like 30 years old. But, I want to preserve it for the new fans. But you get a lot of great moments from this story. You get the Doctor having this great conversation with Davros. You get Ace. And anyone who knows about this story knows exactly what I'm talking about. And again, another great moment. For a lot of people, Ace is a great companion. She's one of my favorites. And finally, in this retrospective, in this recommendation, we get the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann. Now, before the 50th anniversary, before Day of the Doctor, there was a little web short featuring the 8th Doctor called Night of the Doctor, in which he regenerates into the War Doctor, John Hurt. And before that, Paul McGann only had one outing on TV in the 90s, when they tried to bring back Doctor Who as both an American-British partnership. I know there's a better word for that, I just can't remember it. Doctor Who, the TV movie, The Enemy Within, which is what's featured on the Doctors Revisited. Now, I'm going to be honest here. The fandom really hates this movie. Not as much as Doctor Who and the Daleks, but we're not talking about that. Personally, though, I'm more mixed on the movie. There are bad things about it, like the plot has some issues. Eric Roberts is absolutely terrible as the Master, but between you and me, I see his performance in this movie like Tommy Wiseau in The Room. He's bad, but he's so enjoyably bad. And a lot of people seem to overlook that for everything this movie got wrong, it got a lot of stuff right, too. It did a lot of good. Like, Paul McGann is an amazing doctor. And when Big Finish started up with their Doctor Who audio dramas, they kept the 8th Doctor's adventures going. And there are a lot of really good adventures, like Dark Eyes and Blood of the Daleks, Lucy Miller Into the Death. The 8th Doctor is really good. All I can say. The budget for this was obviously the budget of a movie, even a TV movie, which gave really great effects and really phenomenal sets. Like, the 8th Doctor's TARDIS interior is my favorite design for the TARDIS. It's very Vernian, So, but there are flaws with this movie, and I can see those flaws. Like, I did not like Grace Holloway, the companion. She was very, But for all its flaws, I do recommend checking it out. Just don't say to any Doctor Who fan, half human on my mother's side. Well, I do have more vlogs planned. I have some more Doctor Who stuff planned. Hopefully I'll get it out before the Christmas special this year. And we'll see where this series goes. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And this is Sir Jedi Sentinel signing off until next time. Bye!